Hello folks and welcome. My name is Jacob and I'll be leading today's Cloud Call Center webinar tutorial. In this webinar we're going to be going over four things. We're going to go over how to create an account on CallFire. We're going to go over how to create our first Cloud Call Center campaign. We're then going to go over what it's like to make calls with this Cloud Call Center campaign we've just built. And then lastly, we will go over the reporting and the analytics that CallFire provides. A couple of benefits about the Cloud Call Center product. No longer do you or your telemarketers or your volunteers who are making calls with this product have to painfully and manually dial numbers by hand. We're going to take that list of numbers in an Excel spreadsheet that you've uploaded to our website and dial them for you. So all that you or your telemarketers have to do is sit pretty at your desk, hold that phone to your ear, listen to some hold music, and you'll see on a nice little computer screen, show you a screenshot of it right now, a web page where you'll be able to see the name and number from that list that CallFire is dialing. And this is a screenshot of that page right there. And then you'll push these buttons on the web page telling the auto dialer what to do. So again, that's the basic functionality of how the auto dialer works. Of course, we'll get into more detail as we progress through the webinar. So a couple benefits about the product, as I already said before, no more dialing numbers by hand, no connections to busy signals, no connections to disconnected numbers. Your telemarketers or reps will get anywhere between 30 to 80 dials per hour. Again, that's 30 to 80 dials per hour. And that's historically or usually speaking an increase in efficiency of about 2 to 3 times what those same folks could do dialing those numbers manually by hand. So again, this is a wonderful product. We'll get into pricing at the right moment in the webinar. But it certainly is valuable and definitely is cost effective and efficient, if that. With that being said, let's go ahead and learn how to create an account. We'll start by pressing on the orange sign up for free button if you haven't done so already. You'll then press the try it for free button over here. And then where you see this sentence right here that says for Cloud Call Center, register here, press the words register here. This is the form that you want to fill out to create an account with CallFire's Cloud Call Center product. So you'll fill this out, and yes, I'll show you how to get 100 free minutes of demo credit, and then you'll press submit. I'm going to go ahead right now and log into my own account. And then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so when you first create your account, this is the web page you'll see. Welcome to CallFire, let's get started. And you'll see all of the products that we have to offer you. So in addition to the Cloud Call Center product, you can rent a call tracking number, which some people use as the caller ID when they're making outbound phone calls with the Cloud Call Center product. You can also voice broadcast a message, a pre-recorded one that is. The lightning fast power dialing is what we're learning about today in the webinar. You can also build an inbound or outbound IVR. Again, these are all products that we offer that you can use in your CallFire account. To create your first Cloud Call Center campaign and to create any campaign, you'll go to Campaigns and go to Create New Campaign. Next, we will press the green circle with the black arrow that corresponds to the Cloud Call Center and Auto Dialer product. And you'll find that clicking a green circle with a black arrow is a reoccurring theme when creating campaigns with CallFire. Now, each time that you choose to create a campaign with CallFire, you're able to select from one of 3 flavors. We have the Light, Standard, and the Pro. As I said before, I'll mention pricing, and this is a great opportunity to discuss pricing. There are no contracts with CallFire. There are no setup fees with CallFire, nor are there any monthly minimums. All you're doing is just paying $2, $3, or $4 per hour per person logged into the system making calls. Again, all you're paying is just $2, $3, or $4 per hour per person logged into the system making calls. You're only charged for the time that your reps spend logged into the system making calls. You're never charged for doing any administrative work, which would look like building a campaign, viewing the reporting, or making a payment, for example. You'll notice, though, that each of these flavors comes with different features. Some have fewer features than others. Let me go through some of them that you might have questions about. All 3 of our platforms can interface with any web-based CRM system. So if you use, for example, the Blitz lead management system or Sugar CRM or Salesforce, our systems play nice with those. But let's go over right now some of the features that are absent, for example, in the Lite, but that are present in the Standard and the Pro platform. So starting with the dual line auto dialer, What that means is that the standard, and in the case of the Pro, over here with the multi-line auto dialer, each of these dialing platforms can be configured to dial up to 2 numbers at a time in the case of the standard, or up to 4 numbers at a time per person logged into the system making calls. Now, there's a caveat there. The FTC does have a law that they put into place saying that anytime a business is making calls to households or consumers, that business cannot drop more than 3 out of every 100 live connected calls, also known as the law of 3%. So just certainly be mindful of that, or be careful of that should you choose to use the multi-line dialing feature. Another feature over here is the machine skip feature. Again, when you create campaigns with the standard or the Pro platforms, you're able to choose whether or not you want to activate these each time. In other words, by default, they're not already activated. It's a matter of you choosing to activate them when you build that campaign. With the machine skip feature, CallFire will try to avoid those calls to answering machines, or those connected calls to answering machines altogether, and it will attempt to skip them. One caveat, though, is that when it finds out that there's a live person on the other end, there will be a 5-second delay, so also something to consider. The Smart Drop button is very useful. When connected to an answering machine, you are able to leave a pre-recorded message. You don't even have to wait for the beep. You can just press that button, and CallFire will know when to leave that message. One caveat, if you're a business calling consumers, you must have opt-in consent from those consumers prior to releasing that message on that pre-recorded message on that answering machine. If you're making business-to-business calls, or if you're a political group, a religious group, or not-for-profit, you can use the Smart Drop feature. There aren't any legal things you have to worry about. With call recording activated, CallFire can record all those calls. One other note about choosing one of these platforms. Each time that you create a new Cloud Call Center campaign, you're able to select from one of these 3 platforms. That is to say that you are not married to any one of these platforms based on the first one you choose for your first campaign. So I'll go with the standard campaign platform, just so you all can become familiar with what it's like to record those messages. Actually, we'll go with the light. We'll go with the light today, if that's fine. Okay, the first thing I need to do is assign a name to my campaign. The name of my campaign should be somewhat related to the kind of list that I'm uploading. So what does that mean? Well, let's say that I'm an insurance agent, or for example, we'll go with that I'm an insurance agent. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to make my telemarketers more efficient when they're making their outbound calls. So let's say that I bought a list from the big data company, and I'm trying to have my telemarketers sell auto insurance to some folks who live in Coachella. So maybe I'll call this campaign Coachella, in the Coachella Valley in California, that is. It's a real place. One tip or trick, make your campaign names as unique as possible. That way you can find them, or your telemarketers can find them when they need to log in and make calls. The next thing I'm going to configure is the caller ID. This is going to be the phone number that the leads see when they take my incoming calls. Mine's already been verified and configured. In your all's case, you'd press the blue words, create one. You'd press verify new caller ID, type in your number in that box, press send verification code. CallFire will call you at that number, and then you'll type in the security code on the screen that is played for you over the phone, and then your number will be verified. You only have to do this once and only once. Next thing I'll do is I'll assign a passcode to my campaign. That way, only my telemarketers will have access to the list that I upload in the campaign that that list will be attached to. I'll just make it CallFire. Again, the passcode can be anything you'd like. It does not need to be the same passcode tied to your account. And then I have this option as to whether or not to configure the transfer option. I'll go ahead and say yes, and the reason I'm going to do that is because let's say that I have some unlicensed telemarketers or sales producers making these calls. If they get a lead on the phone who wants a quote, well, obviously that unlicensed sales producer could not offer a quote legally over the phone to that lead. So with the transfer option, I'm able to have those unlicensed sales producers transfer those calls to a licensed person in the office. So I like these settings. I'll go ahead and press the green circle. Next, I'll go ahead and type out a script for my telemarketers. That way they know what to say or how to pitch the insurance that they want to sell to these leads. I can either copy and paste one in or just type one in. I'll just type one out, and I'll press the green circle. Now, this is the most critical part of the webinar, and this is the creation of the multiple choice disposition questions. If we go back to this PowerPoint deck real quick in this screenshot, notice over here that we see these questions over here. This is an example of the multiple choice disposition questions. In other words, when my reps are on the phone with these leads, they need to have a way to categorize or kind of identify how that call went or what that next step might be. So in the case of this screenshot over here, if I was actually on the phone with Will Smith, I'd choose one of these choices over here that best corresponds to how that call went. I'll then mark it, and then I press the next call button. Upon pressing next call, CallFire then saves that response, and I can then view it in a report, which I'll show you after we create our real campaign, how to find that report. So we're going to recreate some of the similar questions, or some questions rather, that are similar to what we see over here. So first thing I'll do is I'll type a container question. I always like what happened on the call. And then I'm going to fill in those questions with some answer choices with those questions. So first one I'll add is answering machine. And you'll see why for the light campaign type, it's so important that we have that. Next one I'll add is good lead. Wanted quote. Next one I'll add is callback later. Next one I'll add is wrong number. And last one I'll add is not interested. I can have as many multiple choice questions and corresponding answer choices as I'd like. For most campaigns, I think having one question and then a couple answer choices is fine. If you were running a political campaign, for example, where you're trying to survey a lot of voters with their sentiments on several things, then of course it would make sense to have then several questions covering each of those things you're trying to identify where your voters stand. I can also type in a free text question. For example, how many automobiles do you own? And that way I could just type in whatever number they give me. All right, I'll go ahead and press the green circle. I'll type in my initials to agree to the terms of service. And I'll type in I agree. And I'll press submit campaign. Next, I'll go ahead and upload some numbers to my campaign. So I'll press add numbers to this campaign. And you'll be uploading an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file. So I'll go ahead and browse for one over here. There, it's been uploaded. CallFire asks me two questions over here. I'll say yes to both of them. The first question asks me, I want to scrub this list with the numbers that I've added to my internal do not call list. So what does that mean? Going back to the PowerPoint deck, notice this do not call box over here. If Will Smith, the guy I'm talking to in this campaign, if it were a real campaign, says, hey, don't ever call me again, add me to your do not call list. I just put a checkbox in this do not call box and then press next call. Upon putting a check in that do not call box, CallFire then adds Will Smith's phone number to my own CallFire account's do not call list. So going back to the campaign creation process, by saying yes to this question, if any of the numbers in this list that I'm about to upload also happen to appear in my own CallFire account's do not call list, based on previous calls that I made, CallFire will scrub them out. By saying yes to the second question, if any numbers in the list that I'm about to upload happen to appear more than once in the column that I designate as the dialing column, CallFire will scrub them out. Again, I'll type in my initials, then type in I agree. And I'll press the submit button in the lower right-hand corner. Now here's my list, couple of notes over here. Whatever information you want CallFire to display to your reps or your volunteers while making calls, while it's dialing, meaning before we've actually connected your rep to that person on the other end, make sure that information appears in the first four letter columns A as in apple through D as in dog. Then once CallFire has found there's a live person or an answering machine on the other end, CallFire will then expose the remaining 6 columns. Bear in mind that we do have limited screen real estate in this page. This is where CallFire is, by the way, displaying all the information from the spreadsheet per person that we're calling. So again, whatever information you want CallFire to display, make sure it appears in the first 5 to 10 letter columns of your spreadsheet. One other tip, make sure the phone number appears twice in your spreadsheet. It does not matter in what letter columns they appear in. As long as they appear twice, you'll be in good shape. Notice how CallFire strips out the number over here. So to avoid that number disappearing, make sure that number appears twice in your spreadsheet. I'll go with column J. And now my campaign is finished. So being built, that is. So the next thing I'll need to do is wait for the campaign status to change from pending to stopped. So I can press the word campaigns at the top, and now it shows the status of stopped. So great, I'm done building my campaign. Now let's say that I want to upload a different list of numbers, say some calls that I want to make in February. And I don't want to upload them to the January campaign, but I'd like to upload them to a separate campaign. There's got to be an easy way inside of CallFire to essentially recycle a campaign, meaning reuse the same script and questions without having to create a new campaign from scratch. There is, and we call that the copy campaign function. So to take advantage of it, I'll check the box to the left of the campaign I want to use as my template. I'll go to campaign control. I'll select copy campaign, press go. I'll call this Coachella Feb calls, or Feb INS calls. Press copy. Upload a new list. Type my initials, then type in I agree. Submit. Now I'll go with that dying column. There we go. Now I have a brand new campaign that only took us 2 minutes to make. So that's a really great way to think about how you can utilize CallFire on a daily or on a weekly basis when it comes to managing your lists or creating new campaigns without having to spend 20 minutes creating new ones from scratch. The next thing I'll show you how to do is how to add funds to your account. That's important because without funds in your account, you can't make calls. Just go to Billing Manager, go to Add Funds. You take debit cards or credit cards, or also wire transfers, or you can always mail us a check. Once you've done that, next thing you'll need to do before you log into the campaign is change the status from stop to running. Really easy to do that. Just press the green circle with the white arrow inside, and notice that campaign now shows running status. You're not being billed. The billing timer only begins once you have a telemarketer logged in there making calls. So now we're going to log in there, and we're going to make those calls. So to log into a campaign, we'll go to callfire.com. We'll press the Agents button, this time, not login, but Agents. We'll find our campaign. So that was called Coachella. There it is right there. Next thing we'll do is we'll type in our phone number. This is not the phone number that CallFire will display as the caller ID. This is going to be the phone number belonging to the telephone line that I will use in order to make calls with the dialer. If I had an extension, I would type in a little X followed by the extension. I don't, so that's okay. Next, I'll type in the campaign passcode. Next, I'll type in my email address as well. And I'll select some hold music. This is the music that I, as the telemarketer, will be listening to in between the dialer making calls. So I'll go with Celtic. I'll press next. Now I'm waiting for CallFire to call my phone in order to sync this session with the dialer. My phone, rather, with the dialer. So I'll take that call. Hello. Press pound to continue.
Your agent ID is 6123413.
Type in that ID, which will be different each time I log in. I'll press log in. I won't hang up. There's that hold music.
Hello, you reached the voicemail box for Beth Mackey.
Okay, we're connected to Beth Mackey. She told us that we hit her voicemail box, so I'll make sure I press the answering machine disposition. And then I could take some notes if I wanted to. And I'll move on to the next call by pressing the next call button.
Set up a pre-recorded message when creating.
Now we're calling Will Smith. And again, I chose not to leave a message with Beth Mackey. That's okay. Didn't have to.
Hello, I'm Will Smith. As you can see under the word connected in the top right-hand corner of your screen, I work for Acme Incorporated.
Take my phone off speaker. Okay, so now we have Will Smith. By the way, in all these calls in this campaign, we're going to be connected to pre-recorded voices on the other end. But the point that I'm trying to demonstrate here, or rather points I should say, are the following. Your rep will be holding that phone to his or her ear, listening to hold music, and then that hold music stops once we find a live person or an answering machine on the other end. So again, no connections to busy signals. So if I wanted to transfer Will Smith to one of my licensed sales producers because he wanted a quote, I would just type in that licensed sales producer's number, then press transfer. Hold music resumes, and I can then dial the next number in the list. I'll probably also mark good lead here as well, just so I know that from my own records. Now we're calling Paul Jones.
Hi, I'm Paul Jones. As you can see on the
Take my phone off speaker. Okay, so for Paul Jones, maybe I thought I got his wrong number, so I'll mark wrong number. I could always press end of this call, which simply disconnects me from the call that I'm currently on with CallFire. It does not kick me out of the session. Could take some more notes if I wanted to. And then I could press next call. Right, ready to move on. Looks like there are no more numbers left to be dialed. It's stopped, so I'll press OK. I'll hang up my phone. Last thing I'll show you is the reporting that CallFire provides. We go back to this first tab over here. There are two reports that CallFire provides. One shows you the productivity of your telemarketers when they were logged into the system making calls. To view that report, press on the blue name of the campaign from the dashboard. Go to the Stats tab. Scroll all the way down to the bottom, press on the blue phone number over here, And then you can see each call that each of your telemarketers made in that dialing session. So really cool if you want to check their numbers, make sure they're not fibbing or telling you they've been more productive than they actually were. If I wanted to see a report showing me the details of what happened on each phone call, I'd find my campaign, move my mouse to the left, and then click on the Excel icon or the View Call Records button. I can see the duration of each call in seconds, the call status. Again, call status can be a bit deceiving, especially with light campaigns. So that's why it's so important that you include that answering machine disposition when creating campaigns with the light platform. The only time that CallFire does display the correct status of AM, or answering machine, is when your reps press the Smart Drop button, which again, some of you may or may not be able to use given current legal restrictions. If you guys chose to record your calls or girls chose to record your calls, all those recordings could be over there. All this data can be exported off of CallFire as a CSV file or as an Excel file as well. One more thing to show you. Let's say that I want to redial a subgroup of numbers. So I want to call back all the folks who I marked as answering machine. How can I do that without pulling my hair out? Really easy. We can create what's called a subset campaign, which entails more or less the same process that we use to copy a campaign. So first, like when we copied a campaign, we'll check the box to the left of the campaign we want to use or operate on. This time when we go to campaign control and go to select an option, we will select create subset campaign. And this time we'll press go. Always say yes, use the current campaign format. Notice we have two versions of answering machine. We have the answering machine version in this horizontal row, then we have answering machine in this vertical row. Well, because we want to select the calls that we as the agents marked as answering machine, we're going to go with the answering machine disposition in this agent entered dispositions column. We'll press create subset, and voila, there's one number that met our criteria. I bet that number is that of Beth Mackey. We'll press the green box, the green X to confirm. Yep, that it is. The cool thing about creating subset campaigns is that you can continue to create subset campaign after subset campaign until there are no more numbers left to dial. One more thing to show you, if you all ever need any help with doing anything inside of CallFire, you can always go to help and click on search, and we have robust help documentation with screenshots that you can refer to review everything that essentially we've gone over in this webinar. So one last thing. To review, we learned how to create a Cloud Call Center campaign, we learned how to log in via the Agents button, how to make calls to the dialer, we learned how to view the reporting, and then lastly we learned how to make a payment. So how to get that demo credit, go to callfire.com, click sign up for free, click register here for Cloud Call Center, fill out that form, and then send an email to support@callfire.com and put attention demo credit in the subject line. Again, for those of you who are more kinesthetic learners, what that looks like is the following. Go to callfire.com, press sign up for free, press try it for free, press register here for Cloud Call Center, ignore these boxes over here, fill out this form, this is where you want to be, and then do send that email to support@callfire.com and put attention demo credit in the subject line. Thanks so much for taking the time to learn about CallFire's Cloud Call Center product today. We know that you have many choices when it comes to evaluating auto dialing solutions like ours, so thanks for lending your eyes and ears to us. And of course, thanks for watching.